Joining us now, I'm happy to say, is Jeff Weiner, Orlando Sentinel Court Reporter. The trial's in a recess for I guess, for the next little while they find or bring in the witness about the toxicology. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
No, thank you. I was glad. Now, so they are in a recess until they get this witness, correct?
Yeah, basically, the jury was sent out for the day about 4:30.
Oh, for the day, so that's over.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The only testimony though, they basically, once the jury was sent out, the lawyers set to work on what should have been, or at least started out as pretrial motions that they're still kind of working through. They're going to keep working as soon as this defense witness arrives. He's not going to testify in front of the jury.
Oh, okay, my mistake then. Okay, so what? But this is about the toxicology. The judge, I thought under the impression that the judge had previously, on a different day, way back, ruled that the fact that Trayvon Martin had marijuana found in his toxicology report in his system was not relevant, would not be admissible. Was there a change of heart by the judge?
Well, basically, the judge's ruling, the pretrial ruling on that, only technically eliminated talking about the marijuana in Trayvon Martin's system from opening statements. She basically left the issue open. The presumption was that it wouldn't come in unless the defense could establish that it was relevant, but today she ruled that they did. She's actually already ruled on the toxicology. She says that it will come into the trial. The jurors will hear about the active ingredient of marijuana being in Trayvon Martin's system, and they will hear from a defense expert who we expect will say that could have had an effect on his mood, could have potentially made him aggressive, things along those lines. So the judge has ruled on that topic today. That's kind of the latest breaking news out of the trial.
Yeah.
What we're waiting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
What we're waiting for still this afternoon is to hear whether or not the judge is going to allow the defense to use a computer animation, essentially, of Zimmerman's account of his encounter with Trayvon Martin and what witnesses have seen. They apparently put together some kind of a fancy demonstrative aid to kind of show the jury what they believe the evidence shows. The state says you shouldn't be able to do that. Jurors should rely on the evidence and not be presented some kind of fabricated display. But the judge still hasn't ruled on that. They're waiting to continue a hearing on it.
All right, Jeff. We heard the two police detectives, the detective and the female officer, who had previously testified for the prosecution and who I think were favorable under cross. They were called today to the detective first to say that Trayvon Martin's father had told him, when asked after they played him the 911 call where the screams were heard, that his father, when asked, "Is that your son, Trayvon?" he said no. And the female police officer was in the room at the time. I guess she backed it up and said that he said no. Why then did the defense, do you believe, call the father when they had it and they knew the father was going to probably say no? I didn't say no, which is what he wound up saying. So what he did wind up saying was, I said I wasn't sure, which is just as damaging. But why didn't they leave well enough alone, do you think?
Well, it's really interesting. That's kind of what everyone's asking themselves here. Obviously, the two police witnesses who said that he initially said that he didn't think it was Trayvon, that it wasn't his son. Obviously that's a big boon for the defense, and they could have probably ended today with that as a pretty big victory. It's possible that they knew or thought that the state would call Trayvon Martin's father as rebuttal testimony after the defense closed its case, and they just felt like they wanted to get ahead of that. But yeah, he got on the witness stand, and it allowed the state to put on some more emotional kind of testimony from a family member of Trayvon Martin, who said, I never said that, basically. And now, because that exchange wasn't recorded, the jury has basically the
reasonable doubt,
on one hand, and the police on the other hand. And the net effect probably is still favorable to the defense, but definitely not as much as if the jurors hadn't immediately heard.
Now, at the end of that testimony, or the end of the questioning to Trayvon Martin's father, what was Mark O'Mara getting at with? Are you saying you didn't tell Ben Crump, your attorney, to lie? What was that about?
Well, basically, when it came out that the police were saying that Trayvon Martin's father, right after that, they came out and said basically that Trayvon Martin's father had said that it wasn't his son screaming. Ben Crump came out and basically said that wasn't true, that Trayvon Martin's father never said that. He used some very strong language. I don't know if he technically used the word lie. I'd have to go back and look at it. But he also said that basically that Trayvon Martin's father had heard a cleaned up version of the audio and now believed that it was Trayvon. Now, Tracy Martin testified today that he never heard a cleaned-up version of the audio and never told Crump to say that. So, if Crump winds up getting called in this, he's going to have some tough questions to answer about what led him to say that.
Yeah.
And, why did you say that your client heard a cleaned-up version of the audio
right.
when he's saying that he never told you that?
Very interesting.
I think O'Mara was setting the stage for that.
Gotcha. One other question here. You said a rebuttal witness at the end. Now, after the defense rests its case, then the prosecution gets to call more witnesses?
Yes, the state can call additional witnesses after the defense rests their case only to rebut issues that the defense raised in their case in chief. So in other words, they can't put on new evidence necessarily,
right.
but they can call witnesses to counter what the defense puts on.
And the defense could cross-examine those witnesses, right?
The defense can cross-examine those witnesses. It's basically very much like the state's case. Usually rebuttal is very brief and tends to focus on specific issues because otherwise the judge won't allow wide-ranging testimony. At least typically that's how it goes.
All right, Jeff, Crump aside, if we get Crump or don't get Crump, we're going to have this issue now of the toxicology, and we're going to have the expert witness on the forensics. Who else would be left for the defense, do you believe?
Well, I think probably the most time-consuming and most potentially interesting in terms of stuff we haven't heard yet will be the defense's forensic pathologist and the testimony on the positioning of the bodies, the gunshot, what their expert says about how marijuana could have affected Trayvon Martin's system. That's probably the main thing. We're probably expecting to hear from George Zimmerman's father. He's the one kind of family member and/or friend who we haven't heard from yet on this 911 issue. They may actually be saving him for the end. They're going to try to get this animation in.
Right.
The judge seemed kind of dubious on it earlier in court. But other than that, we really don't know. And the defense has said that they think they could be done as early as Wednesday.
Jeff,
so
we will check in with you tomorrow if you're available again, if we're lucky enough. Thank you so much, sir.